Evening to everyone, both in the building and then also those who are watching via Zoom. Thank you for being out. In just a moment, our candidates will come and we will start our forum. But before we start, we want to open up with a word of prayer. And Reverend Dr. Frank McClarty will lead us in a word of prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance. And then I will come back and introduce our moderator and our timekeeper, and then we will go from there.
If you'll stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we come now, Lord, thanking you for this day, for this truly is a day that the Lord has made, and we rejoice and we are glad in it. We thank you, Father, for the opportunity to gather tonight. And we pray now, Lord, for you said in all thy ways to acknowledge you, and you would direct our path. And so, Lord, we pray for each of the candidates tonight that will speak. And then, Lord, that you will give us clear vision and understanding of who you have chosen to lead this great district. And Lord, we'll be so very careful to give you all glory, honor, and praise. And then, Lord, we pause now to ask that you would have mercy now on the people in Texas for another senseless mass shooting. We pray for those families, those the survivors, those that are still struggling to survive. We ask now, Lord, that you would wrap your loving arms around them and just whatever they need to get them through this moment. Lord, we pray now that you would have your way, and we'll be so very careful to give you all glory, honor, and praise. In the precious name of Jesus the Christ, amen. You may be seated.
Let's say amen for our candidates and their willingness to serve in our community. I want to introduce our moderator and our timekeeper. I'll start with our timekeeper, Sister Doreen Miles Williams, who will keep the time. I want you to understand that there is a time limitation on the responses from each of the candidates, and they know of the time limitation that we shared that with them. But our moderator will give you all of the rules, our agenda for the night, and that is our leader of our social justice ministry at the Greater Mount Olive Church, person of Reverend Josh Busby.
Thank you, Pastor Douglas. Good evening, everybody. Also to those that are joining us via Zoom, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Also, of course, thanks to our candidates who we will hear from here momentarily. Real quick to set the agenda. We have questions that are prepared. They were shared with the candidates on last evening. The candidates know the questions. There will be no curveballs or anything thrown to the candidates. They know the questions. We will not have any questions from the crowd tonight. Obviously, we want to make sure that we are respectful in maintaining the decorum here as well. Again, thank all of you for coming. We have two different types of questions. We have some questions that are open-ended questions. Those are timed questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to up to 2 minutes to answer those questions. We have some other questions that are yes or no questions. There is a 30-second follow-up to that. And so you ask a candidate a question and they can say yes, but, or no, but. The clock starts as soon as we hear the first sound from that, from the mouth of the candidate. And so that is how we will progress. We have an agenda. We plan to stay on it. Also, for anybody who was out in the foyer and it was already shared with the candidates, that coming in, there would be no sharing of any type of materials or promotional materials. But afterwards, at the end of the night, as you depart the building, their representatives will be there to share with you whatever it is that they may have. Amen. 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 And so what we will do is move into our candidate introductions. And so these are 90 seconds for our introductions. Obviously, we'll start from my left, your right, starting with Commissioner Bloomer to introduce herself at this time.
You said there was a timer?
90 seconds. Yeah, so right, she's right there.
Oh, I see you. Okay. Okay, can you all hear me? You can start my time. Good evening. My name is Carrie Bloomert. I currently serve as your District 1 County Commissioner, and I'm seeking re-election. I was elected to this position in 2018 and took office in 2019, and it has been an incredible experience. I have loved every minute of it. A little bit about me and my background. I've lived in Oklahoma since I was 3 years old, and I was raised by a mother with pretty severe untreated addiction and untreated mental illness. And she did not seek help until I was almost 16, and then spent several years getting the appropriate help that she needed. But that experience very much shaped the issues that I fight for now as an elected official. It has been very important to me to fight for better access to mental health treatment and addiction treatment, and to keep as many people out of our jail as possible. And I've gotten to work on those issues as your commissioner. The process of running for office, as all of these folks up here can tell you, is exhausting, but it's worth it. You get to meet all different kinds of people, you get to hear their stories, and you get to advocate for them. And that is what I intend to do if I'm reelected, to serve as your commissioner, to show up and to listen and to advocate for everyone who lives in District 1.
Thank you. We'll move on to Pastor Bird.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Christine Bird. I am the pastor of New Life Baptist Church here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm serving my 12th year as pastor, was assistant pastor for 11 years. My background is very diverse, and I think it is diverse for such a time as this. I have worked with the homeless. I worked for one of the largest shelters in the state of Oklahoma, the Jesus House, for 14 years as their program director. I have taught school at Harding Middle School. I work for the Oklahoma Democratic Party as their political outreach director, engaging minorities communities about what the needs are, and also being a voice for minority communities about the leaders that they elected. I am also a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother. I am not born in Oklahoma, but I have lived here in Oklahoma City for 34 years. So I call it home because my roots are deep here. I've raised my children here from John Marshall to Millwood High School, to now we're at another third group that will be entering Millwood High School. My background is that I have a diverse educational background, but I don't think that really matters. I think that my service and all that I've did in my time, in my short life, has cultivated me for such a time as this. I am ready to serve because I believe that we can do better. We deserve transparency, we deserve accountability, and we deserve people that care about people. And I believe I am that person.
Thank you. All right, Sister Williams, I'll wait till I see the reset. I'm ready. All right, Attorney Coleman.
I am Kendra Coleman, and I am running to be your Oklahoma County Commissioner in District 1. I hold a Bachelor of Business Administration from Fort Valley State University. I hold a Master of Business Administration from Oklahoma City University. I worked for the first 14 to 16 years of my career in accounting and financial analysis. Subsequent to that, I attended the Oklahoma City University School of Law, graduated in 2009, passed the Oklahoma State Bar in 2010. And since then, I have been a practicing private attorney, and I have served as your Oklahoma County District Judge. These unique characteristics make me uniquely qualified to serve as your Oklahoma County Commissioner in District 1. I have a history with finance and I have a history with the law. Those things are specifically geared toward county government. I am Kendra Coleman. I am running to be your County Commissioner in District 1, and I ask that you choose me.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
I am Willard Lindsay. I am running as a Republican candidate for the County Commission District 1. 64 years old, lived in Oklahoma City all my life. I think I understand the issues. I think you will find that there are many that found me on the trails, walking those very streets. I've gone to the very same schools that we once had as a community. I believe I come with a diverse area of experience. Right now I'm in a primary. So you'll hear my comments today are going to be directed towards my opponent that I face on June the 28th. I trust that my experience will give me some preference. It may not. That's going to rely on the voters who can vote in the Republican primary. However, I'm a divorced father of 2. I think I understand the issues that affect your children and your children's children. I have a son and a daughter. So I will say that I have some experience with the differences of gender. And I think we've been successful as a father to my children. We will trust that they love me, but that's what they tell me. 6 years in finance. I worked under Governor Walter.
It's time, Mr. Lindsay.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Ready? Senator Pittman.
Thank you. I am former State Senator Anastasia Pittman. I am running for Oklahoma County Commissioner in District 1. I have lived in Oklahoma County for over 50 years. And so I'm a former state representative, former state senator, and that has afforded me a lot of executive experience to deal with leveraging federal dollars, state dollars, and understand how we apply those to our needs. I understand Oklahoma County needs are more efficient and responsible budgeting practices. I understand the restraints of applying county dollars, and I'm aware that Oklahoma County also faces an additional array of issues. And so for me, I'm an experienced leader with deep roots in Oklahoma. Prior to serving as a community and civic leader, I graduated from Oklahoma City Public Schools. I grew up in Spencer, Oklahoma. I attended the University of Oklahoma, also graduated from Langston University, and I'm a graduate from the University of Oklahoma College of Law. So for 10 years, I was a classroom teacher, and I'm also a former mental health professional as a case manager. And so I have a strong voice and have been a strong voice in Oklahoma County for the past 12 years. So I'm looking forward to running and serving you as county commissioner.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Williams.
Well, good evening. First of all, I just want to thank Reverend Douglas, Reverend Olive, and the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance for this opportunity for us being able to get here despite the rain. So I will take up more time. My name is Latanya Williams, and I am running to become your next District 1 County Commissioner. Now, like some on the panel, I come from Arkansas. Sweet. I got here when I was 14 years old, and I've been here for 40 years. Matter of fact, right now, the Olive was one of the churches that my mother and my family attended, but it was when we were way down there on Kelly, across from the old Temple Funeral Home. I remember greatly the times we had there. It was a basket of wealth for me because I went to Putnam City West High School, graduated from there. But look forward to every Wednesdays and every Sunday mornings, and choir rehearsal on Saturday. The Lena Davenport up here rocking the organ. If you've been there, you know, I tell you this because all of this goes into why I'm here. More recently, I was a teacher at Star Spencer Mid High School and Telstar, and what I saw was the need for services to be rendered in this community. I currently serve on the Spencer City Council where I won, even though I'm running as a conservative, I won 75% of the votes there. Why? Because they see me serving. You may have seen my car serving.
Time, Ms. Williams. Thank you. All right, then we'll move into our first question, and we'll move throughout the candidates as it relates to being able to answer these. And so first question is 2 minutes for each, up to 2 minutes for each of our candidates. In November of 2021, the Board of Commissioners approved the redistricting of Oklahoma County. Many believe the redistricting was very political and have called it gerrymandering. What are your thoughts, and how would you commit to approaching redistricting in the future for the county? We'll start with Commissioner Bloomer. You have 2 minutes.
Do I have to go first every time?
No.
Okay, thank you. So every 10 years, we have to redraw the lines that govern the 3 districts in county government. So when the census data came back this year, District 1 needed to gain about 18,000 residents, and District 3 needed to lose about 18,000 residents. And the easiest way to do that is to take municipalities that are already incorporated groups of people. In this instance, the Village and Nakoma Park came into District 1, and District 3 lost that 18,000 people. Now, the issue that I took with the way we did our redistricting was that my colleagues wanted to have a staff member in the state Senate draw the lines behind closed doors. And I voted against that. I did not want that to happen. I thought that was not a fair way to redraw the lines. So when the map came back to the commissioners to vote, I presented an alternative map that kept the lines as close to what they are now as possible. And that map did not have support. It did not get any votes. It did not have support. So I know there are people who were frustrated with the process. It's certainly not a perfect process at all. I would love for a citizen commission of sorts to oversee our process in 10 years from now. But it certainly, there was parts of it that I didn't like. But I think the map we have now evens out the populations as best it could, and still keeps District 1 representing all of Northeast Oklahoma City. It picked up a little bit of South Oklahoma City and the Village and Nakoma Park. So.
Thank you. We'll move next to Ms. Bird.
Gerrymandering is a way to cheat on democracy and to undermine the principle of one vote, one person. I believe that they intentionally gerrymandered the county seats. I believe they looked at it and they realized that they were going to lose power. People gerrymandering when they start feeling fear and when they feel something is out of their grasp. I think it was done intentionally because people were very vocal about they were running for races, and so they got gerrymandering out of their district. I think we have to be honest about, because the county commissioners had the ability to set up a citizen group to advise them on what was best for the county. They have that ability. They did not do that. So yes, it was gerrymandered. The whole state has been gerrymandered. And until people are vocal, and until people are honest about what they did, it is going to continue. So another 10, we have to wait 10 years before right is done. We have to be vocal. Our votes do count. One vote makes a difference, and they know that.
Thank you. We'll move now to Attorney Coleman.
As Pastor Burt said, gerrymandering is defined as the manipulation of boundaries to favor one over the other. So to answer that question, yes, I do think that has happened, not only in the redrawing of the commissioner lines, but in other lines as well. And as Commissioner Bloomer indicated, we have to wait another 10 years to correct what has happened in this 10 years, in this change of the lines. To answer the second part of the question, what would I do differently? Oklahoma County is divided into 3 sections with 3 commissioners. I think that for me, the seat in District 1 needs to follow what it was before for the predecessors for this seat. Shirley Darrell, Willa Johnson represented the minority community. District 1, the population that is able to vote for District 1 needs to represent that minority population. So however the lines are drawn, whatever committee is formed, that needs to be the outcome to maintain diversity on the commission and to maintain representation for all of Oklahoma County, including this specific area.
Mr. Lindsay.
I'm a visual guy, so I'll ask you to indulge me for a second. Gerrymandering has been defined. The rationale of what some of the other candidates believe is happening could very possibly be true. I'm going to go back with what Commissioner Bloomer has shared with you. This is County Commission District 1. If we adopt that it is gerrymandered and we challenge that in the courts, I think that we, as a community of people, stand to lose far more than the Democrat Party is going to gain by advancing that narrative. What they did is they grouped towns. We don't set the city limits for towns. So when you group them, you did end up with this. If this is challenged in the court and sustains, this is gerrymandering on steroids. So they will undo that, but they will equally have to undo that. This is House District 99. Gerrymandering is where we don't have contiguous parcels with no respect for the streets, landscapes, rivers, or whatever. I don't know that, as Commissioner Bloomer said, that we could get any tighter than this if we're going to group it by cities. It was a majority-minority district. It was maintained as a majority district. So is House District 99. That's how they got that configuration, was by grouping African-American communities into one district. So be careful what you ask for, because if you win down here for your Democrat Party, you're going to lose up here for the Black community. That's my only admonition. I support the map. It's the best we could get.
Time. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. As a former elected official, I come to the table with some extreme experience. Being a former Senate staffer, I served on the redistricting committee. And then as an elected official, I was afforded the opportunity to be a part of the conversations to draw those lines again. One of the things that people are not sharing with you is that the data of how we redraw these lines come from your census data. So when you start moving out of your neighborhoods and out of your committees, out of your communities, your population goes down. So one of the things I did was I called our community leaders and I said, have you seen this? This is a map that has been proposed for us, and it wasn't by us. And so after 30 meetings across this state, you as a community was not invited to the table. So you can go to the Oklahoma County Commissioners meeting on November 18th at 10 a.m. There's a county commissioners meeting on YouTube, and you can see me standing there advocating on your behalf, as I've always done. And so the advocacy part is to tell the county commissioner, our current commissioner, that her map was wrong. But before I told her her map was wrong, I told Commissioner Calvi his map was wrong, because his map compacted our community to where African Americans and Hispanics were going to be compiled together, and he was going to take all the funding. I told Commissioner Bloomberg her map was wrong because she drew a map that was not going to allow African Americans to hold this seat again.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
As everyone has spoken before, the challenge is making sure if we hear a thing that's repeating here, is making sure that decisions are not made about you without you. We give over authority to people and we expect them to do the right thing, but it is honest on us to make sure that we show up and that we tell them what those expectations are. Anyone speaking outside of a community is challenged with knowing what happens in that community, what's best for that community. And I would say, let this be something that compels you to never let anyone, I don't care who's elected, I don't care what position they serve, never let anyone or any group of people decide what's going to happen about and for your community if you are not there. You are here, we serve you. Whether we're on a board, whether we're in a council, whatever it is, we serve you, but if you do not show up, things like this happen. And then we, like I said, we have to wait 10 years before something is fixed. You know, Commissioner Bloomer talked about the redistricting, her line redistricting would mean that it would actually take away some funding because it took away some streets. And I think it's incumbent upon us to learn more about these processes, to be included in that, so that we can tell us what we need. That's all I got.
Thank you. Our next question will be a yes or no question. As stated, candidates will have 30 seconds, but of course we want to capture a yes or no. We have a scorecard. You'll see that we'll be able to capture the responses from each one of our, and it'll be tabulated live. And so that is how we'll move with these yes or no questions. And so I'll let you know which questions are yes and no and which ones are not. So the next one is a yes or no question. We're going to start with Pastor Byrd. 2019, the county commissioners voted to create the jail trust, the Oklahoma County Jail Trust. This has been met with mixed reactions and some controversy. Do you support the current structure of the Oklahoma County Jail Trust? You have 30 seconds.
No, I do not, because I think the jail trust needs to be more reflective of the community. We have more, rather than having more people in the business industry, chamber of commerce type individual, it needs to be reflected of the people that maybe they know someone or someone that has been involved or utilized the services of the jail. So I have a problem with the jail trust because you're asking business people and chamber of commerce people to give input on something.
Time.
And they're looking at it as dollar signs.
Time. Thank you. Attorney Coleman, 30 seconds.
I can't see the clock all the way, by the way.
Yeah.
The short answer is no, for a number of reasons. I've read the trust. I think that the trust is, as it's currently written, is deceiving for most people that read it. We don't know who has the power. We don't know who makes the final decisions. We don't know even what it will be used for, because jail as defined in the trust includes a whole lot of other things other than just the Oklahoma County Jail. So no, I think the way the jail trust is written right now, it doesn't reflect what we would need to know.
Started 3 seconds on it, so we'll give her that time. All right, Mr. Lindsay, 30 seconds.
The short answer would be no. The long answer is It is the structure that's in place. It's what the legislature has adopted. Structure is different than composition. Who's sitting on the trust is what I'm hearing echoes. The structure itself is sufficient. We need to give it time to work. There are complaints and issues that need to be addressed. So I say no on the composition. Yes, the structure is just as good as any other. Let's make it work. It needs time.
Thank you. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. My answer would be yes. The jail structure, as you've heard, was passed by legislation, so it is in place. So the structure is not the problem. The structure had to be put in place because previous funds were misused by the sheriff's department. And so the structure that's in place now allows a sheriff to serve on that commission, a commissioner to serve on that. 4 people get to be appointed. So there are some community leaders that are on there, some that you know, like Pastor Manning.
Thank you. We capture that as yes. Ms. Williams.
I would say yes as well, but for other reasons. Of course, we have the structure here. I'll say yes, but I'm gonna qualify that because as they said, this has already been put in place. But we would be remiss if we didn't recognize the failed expectation of the trust, the people that served on there. We've had a lot of deaths. We have even the release of people talking about the trust as a cash cow. That's a problem. I believe that they really have mishandled the trust of the people.
Commissioner Bloomer.
My answer is yes, because our alternative to the jail trust being in place is the sheriff running the jail. And we've seen decades of, it doesn't matter what sheriff running that building, and it wasn't getting any better. With a jail trust with 9 members, it's not perfect. They've made some mistakes, but you have 9 members who are accountable to the public and have to have public meetings. The sheriff did not have to do that when he ran the jail. So that's why I support the structure of having a jail trust.
Thank you. The next question is also a yes or no question. We're going to start with Attorney Coleman. And the question is, for many Oklahoma County residents, access to social services is difficult. Will you champion funding for satellite centers to provide county social services throughout the county at churches and other nonprofits? Attorney Coleman.
My answer is yes. I would support satellite sites. The residents in the outskirts of Oklahoma City deserve the same access to services as the people that live within the city limits. Transportation is an issue. Accessibility is an issue. So yes, satellite services would correct that problem and create an area where other people can receive those services without having to figure out how to come into the city to reach the facilities that are here now.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
Again, this is a yes and no response. I think we need to be very clear that there is a proper place for public-private partnerships. There's a proper place for partnerships with churches. It's very difficult from a governmental standpoint to reach into abuses within the church because of the separation of church and state. I would much rather partner with the nonprofits that are in the communities. They can be satellites. I'm open to that. I'm reluctant at this time to say that the churches are the solution, but I believe they're part of a solution.
And so we'll get that as a no. We're going to take that as a no.
It's a yes and a no.
Yeah. We're going to count that as a no. And so we'll go now to Senator Pittman.
Thank you. I believe that your quality of life should not be determined by your zip code. So my answer is yes, because we're still talking about funding here, people. We're talking about state dollars, county dollars, and federal dollars. And right now we have county services that's located on Northeast 23rd that you don't know anything about. And now they're being consolidated back down to downtown area. So yes, we need satellite locations, but they also have to qualify for that funding.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Short answer, yes. I believe the church and nonprofits and the church as nonprofits are ideal places to be centralizing locations for these wraparound services that we need. I think is a challenge for our people, our citizens, to have to find a mechanism, a way to get 5 or 10 miles outside of a radius to get services. So yes, yes, and yes, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
I will also say yes. Our current county social services budget is a little over $2 million a year. I would love to see that budget grow. 3 million, 4 million. The services we provide through our social services department are really good services. And like a lot of these candidates have said, everyone deserves access to them. It's hard to get my colleagues on board to increase funding for social services. I will say that it is very hard. So I have to work incrementally to get increased funding for social services.
Thank you. And last but not least, Pastor Byrd.
I will say yes, because we have to understand that District 1 is not just Eastern Oklahoma City. You're talking about Luther. You're talking about Jones. You're talking about Spencer. And contrary to what Mr. Lindsay said, whereas the church has been the backbone of many of those communities. And it always bothers me when people talk about the federal government, all of a sudden it's separation of church and state when it's talking about money.
Thank you. All right. We got everybody? Yeah, we did. All right. Moving on to our next question. This is not a yes or no question. Be 2 minutes for each candidate. We'll start with Mr. Lindsay. The question is, in your opinion, are the Oklahoma County taxes too high, about right, or too low? Once again, we'll start with Mr. Lindsay. You have 2 minutes.
First off, we don't have a county tax. County government is funded through ad valorem. You could say that's a tax, but it's a tax on property. There is no sales tax. You're not going to find a tax on goods, products, and services. So I'm not really sure what the question is getting at here is to say, are they too high? There is no county tax. What we as county commissioners have to balance and budget are the portions of those ad valorems. There's for roads and bridges, we have a tax on fuel. So there's different pockets of money. So I don't want to lead someone to believe that I think the taxes are too high. That's not something that happens at any county level. I don't believe and again, I can't speak for other counties. I know Oklahoma County doesn't have a county tax. You don't tax bread, services, or anything. So I don't believe they're too high because it doesn't exist. And I think I'm going to pair that with your 4 and say that yes, within 90 days, I would ask to review the tax structures because we need to look at that. But again, I haven't been hired. No one's paid me to look at it and make recommendations on anything. So I say that it's something that needs to be looked at in your best interest, in my best interest. But I think we have a set aside that's going to talk about with the county jail piece. And so there's some things that are going to happen in that tax conversation, but it's not a county tax. It doesn't exist.
All right, thank you. And so we're going to capture your answer to question 5, even though we're still on question 4, but we appreciate that. We'll note that as a yes when we get there. We'll go on to Senator Pittman.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. In your opinion, are county taxes too high, about right, or too low?
My answer is no, because he is correct. There is no county tax. One of the things you must know as your rights as a voter, the county cannot impose any tax without your approval. So a county tax would have to come to you for a vote and you would be able to approve it. And the second reason why I say no is because most people who live in our communities, they're living in their grandparents' homes, which those homes were homesteaded. The tax is a flat rate. It has not increased over a number of years. So unless you're building new homes, you won't receive new tax dollars through ad valorem. So too many of our homes have not been improved. So people move out of the community. So our tax base is not too high. We really need to generate more new homes and generate a new stream of revenue. So our schools suffer in all of our districts because of the lack of ad valorem tax dollars. So when you see taxes, you see schools, libraries, neighborhoods in other districts thriving, it's because they have new homes. They have new home ownership. So there are some things we need to do, but you cannot be taxed without your approval on a county level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
So piggybacking on what Derek said, there's no county tax. I think we all got that, right? There's no county tax. And it may seem that taxes are so high because we do have some taxes. And for the lower socioeconomic people living in that range, everything is expenditure. So you have taxes on that. We have high grocery tax. Oklahoma is ranked 7, what's 7 in taxes? So if we look at the ad valorem taxes, again, that's on property. So the municipalities, they can access that, but just for the sinking funds, just for, certain things used for bonds and debts. So we have to figure out a way to lower our tax structure. If we look at the ad valorem, look at our property tax, I think Oklahoma is the only state that does not send a large percentage back to the specific municipalities. There's other states that do that. So there's something, now that would be a legislative thing, right? But it can be done, okay? So if we're looking at bolstering up what we can do in the way of limiting our taxes, we may have to go the legislative route. Okay? That's it. Somebody said,
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Bloomer.
So as you all have heard, there is no dedicated county tax except for the portion of your ad valorem taxes. For every dollar of your ad valorem taxes, a certain portion goes to schools, a certain portion goes to career techs, a certain portion goes to your public library system, certain portion goes to city county health department, and then a certain portion comes to Oklahoma County. Our portion is pretty small in comparison to those other services. Like others have mentioned, for us to raise the millage rate, we have to go out to a vote of the people. You'll see a bond vote on your election June 28th that does not raise your taxes, but we still had to go out to a vote of the people to get that approved. I had a conversation the other day with the director of the library system that their portion of our property taxes has not been raised in almost 30 years. And I said, well, maybe you and I need to talk about that. Maybe we need to figure out how to get the public on board to increase your millage rate to fund more library services. So I'm certainly in support of raising taxes for very specific services that directly benefit people. I was very publicly supportive of MAPS 4. That is a sales tax. So I think I would love to answer question number 5 is yes. I would love some assistance from community leaders to figure out how we can better set up our tax structure to benefit people better.
Thank you. Pastor Byrd.
thank you. I agree with most everything that has been said. Because we do not have a county tax per se. But I think the reason that people don't have a greater understanding, because even for me, I had to kind of educate myself about it, because I kept saying, the county's charging me all this money. But then when I realized and broke it down about where all the money, like you said, career techs, public school systems, and I think we need to understand in the library, understand more education about where our tax dollar goes, the ad valorem tax. Where does it go and how does it help people? I think that people, when they don't have an understanding and a knowledge of, we create a scenario. And so the county has become the bad guy on taxes. So on that, I'm going to stand up for them, and probably be the only time I will, but I'm going to stand up for them on this. And so I think a greater understanding that to the community, and she mentioned the bond issue, a greater understanding on, she said, will not raise our taxes, but what does it do? We need that understanding of that before it gets on the ballot. Because most people will vote because they're going to assume it raised taxes. But I need an understanding before it gets on the ballot June the 28th. and time is a ticking. And so again, be honest enough and accountable and transparent enough to tell us what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it affects us as a community.
Thank you. Attorney Coleman.
I think we've all got the lesson about how tax is broken down. I think the real purpose of that question, while I'm not in anyone's head, whoever wrote the question, is affordability. I think that's the issue. And really affordability comes into place with people that are on fixed incomes a lot of the times. And that, I think, is what needs to be addressed, because there are all kinds of resources, commissions and boards that are set aside to provide funding, to provide assistance, and all of those types of things that will help with affordability, whether we call it a tax, whether we say it's broken down in this way or that way, a county tax, a state tax, or whatever. The bottom line for us is what comes out of our pocket and what we have left. And if we are unaware and not provided access to all of the things that can be of assistance to us, then we're still the ones that fall short. So whatever we call it, we just want transparency, as Pastor Bird discusses, but also accessibility. Give us the information, and as I said over at Fairview, once we receive the information, it's up to us to use it and what we do with it.
Thank you. The next question is a yes or no question. We're going to start with Senator Pittman. And that question is, of course, we've already had a couple of our candidates already answer this question in question 4. But the question is, would you commit in your first 90 days in office to conduct a full review of the county tax structure? We'll start with Senator Pittman. You have 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Not only would I commit to exposing the county tax structure, we need to break it down even further, because you really, the tax structure is public knowledge. What our commissioner has not done is broken down the revenue anticipation bonds. We must be clear on the breakdown of how we spend our money, because 57% of that goes to education, but county funds are made available from reimbursements of the federal ARPA funds. You have not been taught about that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
I'm going to say no, but for this reason. I believe review needs to be ongoing. I don't think it needs to stop at 90 days, at 180 days. And as Senator Pittman was saying, you know, we need to go on and move forward with this. This needs to be a consistent part of the services that we render to the people that elect us. Knowledge doesn't stop. We need to make sure that you get it. And as Kendra was saying, Attorney Coleman was saying, we need to make sure that it's accessible to you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
I answered this earlier, but my answer is yes. I would love assistance with this. There are other county offices that I think would also like to be involved in this. Our assessor, our treasurer, figuring out the best way for us to set up our ad valorem dollars to better serve the people. So yes, I would love your help with this.
Thank you. Pastor Bird.
My answer is yes, because I do believe a review does need to take place. But as Ms. Williams stated, I think it needs to be an ongoing review. I think that even when the county is having, county commissioners are having their meetings, I think a better understanding instead of a consent docket and consultant fees, I think everything needs to be transparent, that if you're doing a consultant fee, who are you doing it with and what are they doing it for? Consent docket, I think consent dockets to me are a way of hiding everything.
Pastor Bird, thank you. Attorney Coleman.
Short answer is yes, but as has been previously stated, the tax structure is legislative. It's a statute. So in that meeting, the legislators need to be there. It needs to be a round table, not just the commissioner, but those that can actually make the changes would need to be present at that meeting as well.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Lindsay.
Again, before stating, as I said before, the answer is yes. I said yes before. I'll say yes today. I'll say it now and I'll say it tomorrow. So I guess that's one of the detriments of me. Sometimes I'm accused of being kind of a stick in the mud guy, but My yays are yays, my nays are nays. My answer today is yes. It'll be the same answer tomorrow.
Thank you. Our next question also is a yes or no question. We'll start with Ms. Williams. And that question is, one of the continuing concerns for the residents of our county are the disparities in employment and economic opportunities. Are you in favor of setting aside county employment opportunities and even county contract acquisition opportunities for minorities? This is 30 seconds. We'll start with Ms. Williams.
I will answer yes with a qualifier, provided that that is within orthodoxy of what we can do as commissioners, absolutely. But I think more importantly, what we need to do is to get our minority business actually certified. So they need to be ready to take advantage of these opportunities. We have a lot of minority businesses. George Reeder was one, and he did some astounding work, and he got a lot of grants, a lot of businesses.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
It's yes or no question.
Yes or no.
Okay, my answer is yes. And I'm looking at my good friend Apollo Woods here. For the last couple of years, Apollo and I have tried very diligently to get a county-sponsored minority-owned business program to do set-asides in our purchasing department. When we receive federal dollars, we already have to do those programs with federal dollars. I wanted to do them with county dollars. There is no state statute that gives us authority to do this. The DA's office told us no. So I would love to work with the legislature to change statute to allow us to do those programs.
Thank you. Pastor Byrd.
My answer is yes. And my first step in doing that would take the $158 million of CARE money and to distribute it to minority business owners, mom and pop restaurants, and people that need it.
Thank you. Attorney Coleman.
Short answer is yes. Whatever it takes to set up the funding, the proper structure to allow minority businesses, because we certainly don't have it now. There was something put in place to allow the other businesses to get out of the bidding and the contracts. So whatever took place to do that, let's do that for the minorities as well.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
Not sure how to answer that, and it may not be a popular position, but I think you need to elect African Americans to put African Americans back in business. To that extent, is that a set aside? It is not. I don't think you will get statutory authority to reinstate affirmative action. It was struck down by the state legislature. But I think by African Americans, electing African Americans to look out for African Americans, we can solve the problem.
So is that a yes or a no, Mr. Lindsay?
I don't know how you want to roll. I mean, your last time on that deal,
I'm not rolling either way.
It is not a set aside. It is not. I just said you need to begin to elect African Americans to look out for African Americans' interests.
So it as a no. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. Thank you. The short answer is yes. But I do want to state that we have state rules that prohibit how you can use and approve contracts. So you need to send somebody there who knows that already, but we can advocate for it. But the good news is you have a former legislator who's already passed the law or who's already passed legislation to let county and city government work together, because I understand the funding streams, and that's what's important to you.
Thank you. The next question is not a yes or no question. It's an open question. It's going to be 2 minutes. It's typo in the information sent to you all, but it's 2 minutes. And we're going to start with Commissioner Bloomer. And that question is, what is your plan for economic development and growing the economy in and around the county? You have 2 minutes. We'll start with Commissioner Bloomer.
So a lot of my answer will include our ARPA dollars, as you've heard some of these other candidates mention. Oklahoma County received $154 million in ARPA funding. We have not allocated any of it. We have hired a consulting firm to help us strategically plan how we're going to spend those dollars. And over the last year, I've met with almost any community group that has asked to come meet with me and kind of give their pitch. I've kept track of what the needs are in the community. I probably have 50 different groups, business groups, nonprofits, community serving organizations. And the themes that come up over and over are affordable housing, which I think contributes to economic development, and workforce training, getting people skilled up to get high paying quality jobs. And so I am very excited and ready to invest our ARPA dollars in those areas. I have a meeting tomorrow with some folks about how do we invest ARPA dollars for that affordable housing? What neighborhoods do we do it in? What nonprofits do we partner with? And so that is over the next few years, you're going to start to see a lot of money invested, hopefully in Northeast Oklahoma City, that will not only help us respond to the COVID pandemic, but will increase economic development and affordable housing.
Just for the acronym, can you explain to the crowd
Oh,
what
thank
ARPA
you.
is?
American Rescue Plan Act. We call it ARPA.
Thank you. Pastor Burt.
Thank you, County Commissioner, for acknowledging the 154 million. I said 58, 154 million that you all are waiting on to decide what to do with. I would, as you said, would invest it in economic growth in small businesses, minority businesses that are trying to start, or maybe they're struggling right now, affordable housing. And I would hope that when we talk about affordable housing, we talk about in definition of what we define as affordable housing, because I've seen affordable housing go up in our community and I don't define it as affordable because I can't live there. So I'm not sure what dictionary they're looking at. So I would do affordable housing. I would help small business. But again, I want to emphasize, we cannot just look at East Side Oklahoma City. We live everywhere, everywhere. So we need to go to Spencer. I can still go down roads and go to stores in Spencer that when I lived in Dungy Apartments, it still looks the same. Come on now. I want to go to Jones, Oklahoma and help that mom and pop restaurant because they're about to close. I want to unite churches. When you say, well, we want separation of churches and state, thank God for churches during the COVID, because if it had not been for the churches, I don't know what we would have done. So I would lean to the churches because many of the churches have established nonprofits under their umbrella. So there is so much that we can do. So instead of asking a consultant out of town what we need to do with our money, let's bring some consultants in our community from Jones, from Luther, from the Village, from South Side, from East Side, and ask them, what do you think we need to do with 154 million? Ask me what I need, what I want with 154 million, and I can give you a long list of stuff.
All right, let's make sure we maintain the quorum. Next, Attorney Coleman.
I was at 2 minutes.
If I could, I would just say ditto. But I mean, I think we can all echo, it's home ownership and it's businesses. That's what builds economies. That's what helps our economies to grow. So when we build new homes, affordable for where we are, wherever that may be, we know that it's not just Northeast Oklahoma City. If the county is divided in 3 sections, it can't just be Northeast Oklahoma City. But the same is true with businesses, not just in Northeast Oklahoma City. We need minority business and all other kind of businesses. But we talk about minority businesses because that's what's lacking. So in order to build those things up, again, I talk about accessibility and I keep talking about it because we don't have it. We don't know what is offered by our county because it hasn't been presented to us. We don't know what we have, where we can start our businesses, where we can start our businesses, what kind of grants or funding is already there under our commissioner's umbrella to help us get to where we're trying to be. Same with home ownership. We don't know what's there because it's not been presented to us. So if we can get transparency and information disseminated to us, then maybe we can start what it takes to get to build our own economy. We're not relying on anyone else. We just want to be able to have accessibility to do what we need to do for us.
Mr. Lindsay.
Ditto. Now, I'll get my 2 minutes. Clearly, I think that the initiative has to be far broader than just the African-American community. But clearly that's where the disparities lie. Again, I'm going to go back and say that it's critically important that we elect African-Americans to look out for the interests of African-Americans. That's not saying that other ethnic and heritage groups can't do it, but I don't believe that we should count on someone else to take care of the things we should take care of ourselves. The flow of economic dollars is driven by policy. If we're sitting down at the county commissioner, it's a powerful seat. I need you to understand it's a powerful seat. Commission is divided into 3 equal parts. It only takes one other person to agree with me if I was to be hired and elected to do that. And it's a game changer. Sales taxes, for me, that is critical to me. I've driven in Jones, I've driven into Spencer, I've been into Forest Park, which has no economics business piece. It's only a residential environment. We can take you into Nakoma Park. If you want to look at what's happening east of I-35, this thing is echoing something horrible. I believe roads brings economic development. You have to be able to get in and out. I hear about the rooftops. I've got to be able to get goods, products, and services in and out of those communities. 2 minutes. Okay, so I got 30 more seconds to say. It's a passion of mine. I've been doing economic development at levels for 20 years. I think I understand how it happens, and I clearly understand the critical need for it to happen. And so I do have a plan. They haven't hired me, but I do know what to do.
Thank you. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. What I want to share with voters today is the good news is you do have somebody that knows what's going on. So every time you hear somebody say, we don't know, it's incumbent upon us to find out what's happening with $154 million. That is ARPA funds, but it is restricted on how you can use it. So that laundry list that I'm not going to repeat, it sounds good, but at the end of the day, I have been seated at the table once before. I voted for a big league NBA team. People were against it, but we brought in jobs. We brought in economics. I sat at the table and I passed legislation in conjunction with Senator David Holt at the time. We brought in a new Flicks Brew House and a retails between Britton Road and Wilshire. That didn't happen by happenstance. I had a seat at the table. I knew where the funds were going. So we brought in more jobs and economic development. The First Americans Museum, it could be located anywhere in the state of Oklahoma because we have 39 federally recognized tribes, 500 state tribes. But that First American Museum is located in House District 99 intentionally, because it's going to bring revenue to the northeast side of Oklahoma City. We do have a vast district. We have 8 municipalities in this district. So for me, I would continue to talk about what we need to do for our transportation. Nobody's mentioned what the county roads and bridges are supposed to look like. I know how many county roads and bridges need to be fixed because I served on the Department of Transportation. I served on that committee. I served on the committee for veterans. I know what our senior citizens homes and veterans homes and centers should look like because I've been there. I've done that. I've also brought together a group of contractors to help educate our African-American businesses on how to do business and how to qualify for contracts. You have to know what's going on. And I'm telling you, I need your vote.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
The questions ask about how to grow the local economy. And we've talked about what we're doing on that level, but let me bring it down a little bit. Let me bring it down to your door. Mr. Lindsay spoke about driving through Forest Park, and there was, it's basically a residential area. The same we can say for a lot of places in this area, they have a lot of land. If we look at a macro version of what's going on in this economy, in this worldscape, we know that there's a food shortage. How many is aware of that? No, you're not aware that okay, let me tell you, it is. It is purported to be a food shortage. But what we need to do, let's look at this. Let's normalize trade schools for our kids so they don't have to have a lot of school debt. Let's normalize
plumbing, let them learn how to farm. Ag is a huge thing. So from your door to your front yard, you can provide food for yourself. It just takes 1.7 acres for you to grow food. And I say that because that's a big concern, not just for our senior citizens that I've spoke with, but for our students, our kids. So economically, you grow the food, you sell it, you begin to inculcate this center in the midst of your community. Let's start there. There's a way to do it. I know y'all scared of dirt. Don't be scared of dirt. It's what my grandma used to say. Don't be scared of dirt, okay? Because you can be recognized as a farm and qualify for other loans to get a home, other grants to help you build. I'm just saying, let's change. Let's introduce the new thought on a local level from your door to your front yard.
Thank you. And we'll go now to our next question. This is a yes or no question. We're going to start with Pastor Byrd. There are a lot of continuing concerns about the current county detention center. We've talked about this, also known as the county jail. We've already referenced an upcoming bond issue that's going to be on the ballot. The direct question is, and you have 30 seconds, are you in support of the bond issue to fund a new county detention center?
I'm going to take an example from Willard Lindsay. No and yes. I am going to say no for the pure fact that I want this to occur. At this time, there are 21 people have died in that county jail. There are systematic problems with the jail. If you don't deal with those problems, why would you build a new jail to take the same problems?
Attorney Coleman.
I don't know how many of you have been in the jail, but I have. We need a new jail. What it will cost to fix that jail would be comparable to what it would cost to have a new jail. Nobody says we don't need a jail, right? We can't have that stance. We have to have one that is livable. We don't want to send people to jail to die, to catch diseases, and all kinds of other things. So yes, we need a new jail.
Mr. Lindsay.
Okay, if I understand the question correct, I think it says, are you in support of continuing the bond issue? The answer is yes. I think we clearly need the oversight. I believe we need a new jail. I believe that the one that we currently have is inadequate. It was designed poorly. It wasn't real well suited to be a county jail. This does not increase our taxes because that portion has already been allocated. So no increase. Let's use it to build a new jail.
Thank you. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. The short answer is yes. And the reason why I say yes is because I take tours of the jail, and they've already voted for an oversight committee. The commissioners have already voted for an oversight committee to be in place like they did with MAPS. But one of the things I want to see is the accountability. So without a new jail, you have to look at what the alternative would be. And that's to leave people who are already there for 6 more years in solitary confinement, which would put us in violation.
Time. Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Short answer, yes. Because it puts the decision in the hands of the citizens. That's the main reason. And we do know that we need one. And I did hear someone said not for $1 billion. You're right. We need to be cognizant of that amount. But I'm glad for the decision makers to allow you to make the decision. You need to just make the decision. You get the choice. It is bad. It is bad.
Time. Commissioner Bloomer.
100% yes. I cannot in good conscience continue to put people in that current jail. Like Attorney Coleman said, have you been in that jail? It is a very depressing place. It is not human-centered. A new facility will have adequate space for mental health treatment, medical treatment, recreation space, community partner agencies to come in and provide services. We don't have any of that space in our current jail.
Thank you. The next question is also a yes or no question. We're going to start with Attorney Coleman. And that question is, will you commit to allocating more resources to fund mental health programs and the like for citizens in and around the county? We'll start with Attorney Coleman. You have 30 seconds.
My answer is yes. I will make that commitment. I will also make the commitment to provide services specifically provided by diverse providers for our diverse community, because right now that is not what is happening. And I think we can agree that mental health services are relationship generated. And if you can't identify with your provider, then I don't know that you're really receiving a service.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
My answer is yes, unequivocally yes. I think there's equally so a conversation that needs to be had concerning the continuum of care for mental health. We've got individuals living in homes, killing their loved ones that really are not suited to be in those residential settings. However, there's currently nothing that provides for them to go anywhere else until they offend. So they're ending up in jails, underneath bridges, and that's simply not an adequate response from an Oklahoma County Commission.
Time. Thank you. Senator Pittman.
My answer is yes. As I stated before, I was a mental health service provider. I had to relinquish my license in order to be elected. So you can't get two checks from the state. And what my concern is that our current county commissioner says that she's advocated for $40 million. And I don't know any African-American mental health service provider that has a $1 million contract. You can have the other 49. Or the other 39. But at the end of the day, if we don't hold our elected officials accountable.
Time. Thank you. Ms. Williams.
I'll finish Ms. Pittman's statement. We're going to be right in the same place that we are right now. Was that what you're going to say? Okay, thank you. Yes, we need that. We need continued services. COVID did a wonder on our kids. And it wasn't a wonderful working wonder. Even the parents suffered greatly, and we're still feeling the results of that. So absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
This one is very easy for me. Yes. I was very proud in 2019 to lead the effort for MAPS 4 to include funding for 2 new crisis centers, a restoration center, which is a crisis center and addiction treatment, and transitional housing for folks with mental illness. That $40 million was voted on by the citizens of Oklahoma City. It's a city sales tax. Unfortunately, I have no authority over what contractors are selected to run those facilities, but I have kept a coalition of.
Pastor Byrd.
My answer is yes, I would, but also take into account the homeless, individuals with alcohol and drug addiction problems, individuals that are defined coming from the LGBTQ community that we do services to render to them. That's why I say that if we do those things, I'm on board for a new county jail, but we cannot house all those communities in one jail.
Time.
You can't.
All right, thank you. So we've captured those as well. We'll go on to our last question. This will be Mr. Lindsay will lead us off. One of the laments that many citizens express, and this is a yes or no question, I apologize. One of the laments that many citizens express about elected officials is their invisibility in our community when there is not an election looming. Will you commit to meet regularly with faith and community leaders to address our concerns and share your progress? It's a yes or no question. You have 30 seconds, Mr. Lindsay.
The answer is yes. I've ran for political office 5 times. This is my 6th race. I've yet to go away or disappear. But I do need to say, I've never been elected to office ever. So you can't say that I've disappeared because I got elected. I've never been elected. Secondly, I would equally say that it's buying my time. I'm not going to molest the sacred hour of worship, but I'm available to meet with any church group that's willing to invite me outside of their worship service to meet with them.
Thank you. Senator Pittman.
Thank you. Thank you. My answer is yes. I will continue to do what I've always done for the last 12 years, and that's come to our community leaders and ask for permission to do things prior to us just doing it. But at the end of the day, we continue to meet with our community leaders to share with them information so they can make better decisions for our communities and what they do. So that's nothing new for me. I've done it for the last 20 years and I'll continue to do it.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Okay, yes, I call that the spotlight syndrome. When the spotlight goes off, then you're here. And then when you turn it off, then you disappear. I'm working in the community I serve. I cook and serve. So those homeless that Pastor Bird was talking about, I see them. I see them every week because I'm out in the community. So it would be my honor to get to meet with those who are here, who can reach out and touch and let us know what's going on. I would love to do that. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
I think this is a no-brainer for all of us. Yes. During my time as commissioner, it has been very important to me to be out in the community in every part of the district. I've hosted regular town halls, virtual and in-person town halls. We've done very casual coffees with your commissioner. And I have tried to show up wherever I'm invited. And sometimes I get in trouble for overscheduling myself because I say yes to everything I'm invited to. So I intend to continue that in my second term.
Thank you. Pastor Bird.
My answer is yes, not only with the faith community, but with the mayors and the leadership in the towns that build up one, because I think it is important that they, whether they're from Jones, whether they're from the village, Midwest City, that we need to meet with those leaders on a regular basis. Then as far as the community, I do community work. I don't create community work. I don't do picture taking. I'm there working.
Thank you. Attorney Coleman.
Short answer is yes. I've not been in this community for the last 20 years. I've been in it for the last 46 years, and that's how old I am. I go to church in this community. I shop in this community. I live in this community. In fact, I'm a member of this very church that we sit in today. Sometimes I'm missing from this very church because I'm visiting your churches, coming to your activities. So this will be nothing new to me. It will be something that I've always done and that I will continue to do. I'm happy to meet with anyone and discuss anything as it relates to the furthering of our community.
Thank you. This last question is open questions, 2 minutes. This is our last question before we close out. Senator Pittman will start it off for us. And that question is, what do you see as the biggest issue facing Oklahoma County? And how would you propose that issue be addressed? You have 2 minutes, Senator Pittman.
Thank you for the question. We have a plethora of issues in Oklahoma County District 1. So it's not just roads and bridges. It's not just senior citizens making a decision between purchasing their meals or their medicine. You can go to the county and get medicine from a county pharmacy. You can have loved ones buried by the county who unclaimed bodies. But currently we keep talking about this jail. And if that's going to be the issue and the priority of this community because it's on the ballot for June 28th, then let's talk about dollars. Because if we're not talking about the dollars to make it happen, it doesn't make sense. So there are other sources to pay that $65 million. We have revenue anticipation bonds. We have county funds that are made available from the federal ARPA funds. But we also have a savings from increased ordinary county tax revenues. And so I'm real curious as to why our current commissioner voted no on the sale of the Crow's building, even though it benefits District 1. So I want to equip you with information and knowledge that you don't have. because our current county commissioner did not come and talk to you first. So if you're going to continue to hire people, hold them accountable, and this accountability meeting should have some transparency. You've heard that. So we can talk about the GOLT bonds, G-O-L-T. We can talk about the bonds which raised $260 million. We've also established an oversight board to look over the $300 million, and they hope to set aside 10 million. But if we don't have these courageous conversations with our county commissioners, we're not coming to talk to you over coffee, and we don't have to wait to invite you to this community that you represent. You schedule appointments with us and come tell us where the money is and what you're doing with the money. And you cannot audit yourself.
Time. Ms. Williams.
I think one of the biggest issues facing Oklahoma County, as I'm just cracking up at you, as Ms. Pittman has said, there are a plethora of things that are of high concern. I think one thing is health, whether it's the economic health, whether it's community health, cultural health, that's a thing. And, you know, when you look at our mental health, we talked about mental health here. If we are not healthy, you can fill in the blanks. If you are not healthy, you can't even make your way to get to the places to understand the information that is being given so that you can make an intelligent decision. So we have the highest rate of juvenile diabetes, our youth, and we talk about these things. So I think health is a big concern. How healthy are we economically? It plays into everything we've been talking about here. You know, wealth laid up where, but do you have access to it? Do you have access to it? And not just access to get it. Do you know how to make it work ongoing for you? I think that's a big concern for us, for this county, for this community. But I believe we're on our way to changing those things. I believe it, and I hope you believe it too.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
I think the biggest issue facing Oklahoma County government is our jail and our criminal justice system. Of course, there are pieces of our criminal justice system that the commissioners don't have any authority over, but what we do have authority over is our jail and the conditions of what is going on in that jail. Back in 2009, you all may be familiar that the Vera Institute came in and started looking at what was going on with our jail and why so many people were being put there. I think the average was around 2,600 to 2,800 people were in our jail at a time. In the last several years, because of the community partnering together, law enforcement, judges, nonprofits, government agencies have lowered the population to about 1,600. It's still not low enough. That's still not low enough. And we have to partner with law enforcement and judges to prevent people from getting into that building and to help get people out as quickly as possible. The new jail that we've all talked about, some are in supportive of it and some are not. That is going to be a massive project. That is going to be a $300 million project that will take several years to build. And my hope is that we can tear down the old jail and that we don't need it anymore. I want to be very clear with that we're not building a second jail to have two jails. The portion of our budget that funds the Oklahoma County Jail, it's over almost a third of our budget, our general fund budget. So our general fund is typically around $105 to $110 million a year. Over $30 million goes to the jail. It's a huge portion of our budget and a huge portion of the services that we provide in county government.
Thank you. Pastor Byrd.
I think it has been pretty much stated that the biggest problem that we are going to face is the county jail. Now they're saying that it's going to cost us $260 million, but they're not telling you over the 5 to 7 years to get it built, it could end up $1 billion. They're not telling you that they have not secured other funding. They're not telling you they tried to get the $154 million and the feds came in and say, you can't do that. They're not telling you that. They're not telling you they have not secured any other funding. They're banking on you to pass this and that you'll just keep signing on the dotted line. They are not telling you that they want to criminalize mental health. They are not telling you about the preventive measures we need in the county jail. They're not telling you, they're not doing anything for the homeless and mentally ill, for the alcohol and drug addiction. They're not telling you they're going to do something different with the women that are in jail and men that are in the pod with the women, bodily searching the women. They're not telling you that. They're not telling you they're going to answer the question for the 21 families that have lost people like Christina and Rico that have died in the jail, and they have not given them the answer. They're not telling you they don't have an answer yet. They want to build a new pretty jail so it could go with all the pretty lofts and condos downtown so we could be a big city. They need to tell the truth and stop lying to the public. They want us to be a nice, pretty little city so we can all sing Kumbaya. I don't want to sing Kumbaya. And I know some of you find this distasteful and say, oh, she's loud and she's talking and she needs to be more ladylike. I don't want to be ladylike. I want to call it what it is. It's a sham, and they need to stop the sham and come straight with us. So if I'm not ladylike, excuse me, I don't want to talk soft. I want to call them out and let you all know they are lying to us.
All right, let's make sure that we maintain the quorum as much as we can. All right, and last but not least, Mr. Lindsay, excuse me, Attorney Coleman, I apologize. Attorney Coleman, you have 2 minutes. I apologize.
Sounds like the biggest issue facing us is transparency and honesty. So I certainly think that needs to be a part of our new commissioner. We actually have 2 new commissioners, the possibility of 2 new commissioners coming in. So certainly we want that. But I think that given all that we have discussed, our county is combating, the solution is economic development. We're gonna get a jail. We're gonna have a jail. But if we can keep people out of the jail, then are we not winning, right? If we can give people jobs, teach them what they can do. I agree. Everybody doesn't need to go to college, but you can be a plumber, you can be an electrician, you can be a welder. There are systems in place. There is support in place to help us get there. And when I say we need accessibility and we need to know, I'm not saying I need to know. I'm saying we as elected officials need to make that information available to the public. I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't know. So what we need is information to be disseminated so people can better themselves and stay out of that nasty county jail and stay out of the new pretty county jail that's gonna go with the condos that are downtown. If we can create better economies and let our people live better, then all of that becomes a moot point.
Mr. Lindsay, you have 2 minutes.
I'm almost afraid to answer that. Sister Bird, I'm not a woman. And so I'm gonna take and follow after you. I like your energy and your passion. So I ain't no woman, I don't have to be soft-spoken. I think that there isn't a single biggest issue, but the question was, what do I see as the biggest concern? I'm gonna also follow with you, Sister Kendra. I believe that we have to get our economics in place, not just for the African-American community. The Hispanic community is doing it. The Asian community is doing it. Somewhere we have to say, what is a solution? You've heard the county commission candidate talk about, we still are jailing individuals from our community in large numbers behind crazy stuff like debt, not paying a ticket, not agreeing to a term with a creditor. We're filling the jail up with the wrong type of people. So maybe the jail can be a big problem, but you need to look at why it's a big problem and the things that are happening. County commissioners control what happens in that building. They really, really do. Not only that building, every county building in this county falls under the purview of the county commissioners. There are things happening in there economically that needs to be redressed. Now, I'm not going to come forward with a solution. I'm sorry, Dr. Busby, because they ain't hired me. But if you think I don't know what needs to be done, I've been here 64 years. I've watched it happen. So I'm not new. Someone will tell you, where'd he come from? Well, my mother birthed me. Okay. And I watched things happen since 1958. So what is the biggest problem? There isn't a single biggest problem. The question asked me to give you an answer. I gave you an answer. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I think I'm ready to go forward and have that conversation. And then, like I said, I'm not a lady. So I don't gotta worry about how they take that. I'm 6'2", 225 pounds. Things are going to happen. I thank you very much.
Thank you. And right before, as we prepare our final remarks, closing remarks, we want to put the scorecard back up on the screen that noted for our candidates. And we'll leave that there as they close out in their final remarks. So now we'll have 2-minute closing for each one of our candidates. We're going to start with Ms. Williams. Ms. Williams, you're going to start it out. 2 minutes, final remarks.
Can I stand? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you. Thank you for being involved in this process. Thank you for taking your time to come out and to listen to us. Thank you for hearing. More importantly, thank you for being wise enough to make your own decisions about what works for the community. I stand here and I ask for your vote. If you are a conservative, and I know you're surprised that I'm a conservative, but we can talk about that after church. This is church. You know, when you meet together, it's a church. We can talk about that if you like. But I ask for your continuing to fight for what's right for those who can't fight for themselves. You be the voice. I determined that I would run because I believed I can be of service. I serve in the community, not under the spotlight, but the lives that we serve are changed for the better. I believe I can bring that to you. I believe this community, I can help bring together other communities and join together, and we could come up with reasonable solutions and delineate things that we will not do, things we will not take, to determine what we will accept, because we've made that decision of who we are and what we can be. Again, I thank you. I've so enjoyed this panel. I've so enjoyed you all. I've been watching your expression. I know you're engaged. And as I said, I believe it will be better. Why? Because you have determined it will be. So I ask, should I make it past June 28th, that you consider voting for me? I would love to represent you and your future. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer, 2 minutes.
As many of you know, when I decided to run for county commissioner 5 years ago, I knew that the only way that I could win was knocking on doors and going door to door and listening to people and educating them on what a county commissioner does and where their tax dollars go. And over the course of 18 months, I knocked on 14,000 doors. And that experience changed my life. And I take all of those stories with me of the people that I met and continue to meet as I'm knocking doors now for reelection. I take those stories with me into this job. And I try to show up in every part of District 1. It's an extremely diverse community, and I'm very proud to represent it. I've lived in District 1 for the last 12 years in various different neighborhoods, and it is an honor to represent District 1. I call myself a coalition builder. Before I was elected, I worked for the Oklahoma City County Health Department, managing all of our public-private partnerships, and was out in the community quite a bit on behalf of the health department, and really tried to build a coalition of community partners that addressed health. And now in my role as commissioner, I am very proud to have built a coalition of mental health providers. Eat regularly, and that was the group that put together the MAPS proposal, the MAPS 4 proposal. And it has been an honor to represent them and to continue building coalitions while I do this work. So I would ask for your vote on June 28th in the Democratic primary. we have a lot of work left to do. And I feel like I'm just getting started. And we have a lot of work left to do when it comes to fixing our criminal justice system and investing in social services and investing in our people. So I would humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you. Pastor Byrd, 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank Pastor Douglas for allowing us to have this forum here. One of the reasons that I'm running for this office, I'm tired. I'm tired of the same old, same old. I'm tired of the same political rhetoric. I'm tired. I'm tired of not seeing economic development in our community. I'm tired of people saying that they are leaders, but they're leaders during election cycles. I'm tired. I'm tired of going every Saturday morning at 5:30 feeding the homeless, but yet we say we have provided service for the homeless. I'm tired of having to give folks stuff because folks are having to do without. I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing horror stories about in the jail or watching the news making a mark because another person has died. I'm tired. I am tired of just being tired. And because I am at that point, I believe we deserve a change in Oklahoma County. I applaud every one of these people that are sitting here. I know them all personally. And we've had our battles, but we've had our good days. But I know if you want a leader with a servant's heart, a person that will serve the community in season, out of season, I am that person. So on June the 28th, I'm asking you to vote for the person that will kick butt and take names. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of good old boy tactics. I'm not scared. I'm from Arkansas, so I know. So I'm asking you to vote for the right reason. Vote for a person that you will do the job and will stay the course. I'm Christine Byrd, and I'm asking for you to vote for me June the 28th. Thank you.
Attorney Coleman, 2 minutes.
The question has been asked, is my heart in this commissioner race? Or is my heart still on the bench? The answer to that question is my heart is in service to my community. I made a conscious decision to run for Oklahoma County Commissioner in District 1 and to determine whether or not at a later date I pursue being an Oklahoma County District Judge again. I made that decision because it would be unfair to you as the public to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I owe you more than that. You've supported me through too much. So my heart is right here in our community in this race, where I will represent you well. I have, in short language, put my money where my mouth is. I have stood up against wrong. So I'm not just telling you what I'm willing to sacrifice and what I'm willing to do. I have shown you. So I will be on the ballot on June 28th. And I ask that you choose me as your Oklahoma County Commissioner for District 1.
Mr. Lindsay, 2 minutes.
Well, we've come to that the glorious end of all of this, haven't we? Well, clearly, I like the spirit of Sister Christine Byrd. I don't run scared of nothing either. I think we have some serious issues ahead of us, but today I'm having a conversation about my opponent in the primary. If I don't survive the June 28th primary, the other candidates here, those dispositions won't matter. But I still believe that if you're conservative, I am a constitutional conservative. I am a fiscal conservative. I believe in the platform and the postulates of my party. You'll have to compare and lay those out together, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a Republican, I solicit your vote. I think I know my way around. My motto says, given half a chance, I believe I can get you better outcomes. June 28th is just a midpoint. I don't go to November. I believe I should. You will decide that. So I say that there are a lot of issues ahead of us. I'd like to come to the table and find solutions. Clearly, I'll ask you to hire me before you ask me for those solutions. But I think that's only right. To ask someone to work for free is simply not an American principle. So to that extent, I'll yield to say, I am Willard Lindsay. I believe that I am the candidate that should go beyond June 28th. And I trust that you will give me your vote and allow me to go do what I believe God has already prepared me to do. I thank you very much for your time, and God bless you.
And last but not least, Senator Pittman, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for being here. And thank you to Pastor Douglas for the foresight of having this. I just simply want to say, I believe that everyone in County Commissioner District 1 deserves the same services, services to infrastructure, services to the funding, and services the same high quality services. I don't believe that your zip code should determine the type of services you receive. So with that being said, I am an example of someone bringing economic development to the table. I've done that. I am an example of someone who has passed legislation. I've done that. And so when you say we need more, we can do more with more funding. And I'm asking you to support me as your candidate for county commissioner. I am a 6th generation Oklahoman. I have dual citizenship with not only Oklahoma, but also as a member of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. So there are things that we can do. I currently serve on the Seminole Council. So we're looking at ARPA funds. I'm looking at billions of dollars every day. And that's what I do. I was fortunate enough to serve as the chair of health, appointed by a conservative to do health outcomes. I've had the mental health background that we seem to be so concerned about, but I had to give up a license to serve in a higher capacity. But I'm also sharing with you that I will support those diversion hubs because I've worked in aerospace and technology. We've brought career tech programs to Oklahoma City that would hire high school graduates. They make $40,000 a day. We partner with Tinker Air Force Base. So not per day, but a year. They can make that amount of money without a degree. They can make that amount of money without a degree. High school students can do that. So if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. Vote Anastasia Pittman on June 28th.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will turn it back over to Pastor Douglas for final remarks and the benediction.
Thank you, Reverend Busby. Thank you, candidates, for coming and sharing with us so that we can be better informed of the decision that we make for Oklahoma County Commissioner District 1. Thank you, everyone that's in this space, for coming and expressing your concern about what goes on in your community, those that are watching via Zoom and also on Facebook Live. I think, I'm not sure that Mark Miles, who is running for Oklahoma County DA, is here. I thought I saw him. Yes, thank you for showing up on tonight as well. Are there any other candidates running for any other races that are here? Want to recognize you as well. Let me know who you are, sir. With the mask. All right. Yo. All right. And so thank you all for coming. And listen, we have to be involved. We have to know, as the candidate said, part of it is we need to know what's going on. And then we have to hold them accountable. And they're asking for our support, and we have to hold them accountable for what we want done. And I thank them for agreeing to this. We'll put the questions up. It'll be on our Facebook page. This whole thing will be on our YouTube page, so you can go back and look at it at another time to see what's going on. But make sure that you get out, that you vote. If you're not registered, and I think we've always talked about voter registration, and it goes on, but I think most people I know are registered. The issue is that we don't go vote. And so if you're not registered, get registered. I think June 4th is your deadline for this election. But go out and exercise your vote, your right to vote. You don't have a right to complain about anything if you won't exercise your vote. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Sister Doreen, for keeping our time. Let's stand.